housekeeping, please help me welcome our speaker, Margaret Spence. Margaret is no stranger to our virtual stage. She has a masterful way of giving you jaw-dropping, sometimes scary stats and information, but then she empowers you with the tools you need to face what's coming. So buckle up, people. This is going to be another good one. Margaret, the session is all yours.
Great. Thank you, everyone. So, here's what I'd like you to do before I share my screen. I want you to put in the chat what your biggest fear is as a woman or as a person in learning and development about AI. I want you to put that in the chat because I want to know. I want to get that out of the way first. So, let me do the technical stuff and share my screen. For those of you who have never come to a session with me before, as Casey said, my name is Margaret Spence. I'm the founder of the Inclusion Learning Lab, and my expertise is in two specific areas: women's leadership development and AI governance for HR and talent leaders. So those are my two areas, and those are the lanes I stick in. So let's start because I have a lot of stuff I want to share with you today, a lot of information that I want to impart. And so um, I'm going to get started. So let me put what is in the chat. I'm going to come to everyone that posts in the chat about your fears. So go ahead and put it in, keep writing, put everything in there, and I'm going to go back and read it because I want to make this as interactive as possible. So welcome to Women's Leadership 2030, turning AI disruption into strategic power. We are no longer at the mercy of what the AI decides to do to us as women, as professionals inside of the world of work. We are undisruptible, which is my word going forward. We will be undisruptible. Despite disruption, we will remain undisruptible. So, this session answers one question: how do we keep women advancing in an AI shaped workforce without losing what makes leadership human? You will walk away today with 5 disruption zones that shape women's careers from 2026 to 2030. What is going to shape our careers? You're going to have what AI disrupts versus what stays human. And I'm going to give you a blueprint to redesign leadership development for mobility and power. So my pulse check, which is what we were doing, is what's the biggest AI worry for women's advancement or your biggest fear about AI? So I'm going to take a second and scroll through the chat. And I want you all throughout the session to put your questions into the chat. Okay. So keeping up with it, great. Great summation. Not being able to keep up with the changes, being replaced by AI, layoffs, mostly privacy concerns at this point. What happens to the information being received and processed by AI? Oh my gosh, and I are on the same team. I don't worry about AI agents stealing my identity. I don't want to have AI agents stealing my identity. That my IP, I'm assuming IP skill sets will soon be almost worthless. Not being able to keep up, having too much lines being blurred between roles, capability because of AI. I'm worried about economics and environment. I know many have fears. However, I don't actually have a fear about AI. I'm just another new tool that's causing a disruption like the internet and the computers. Lack of regulation, keeping up with the pace of change and staying relevant. Okay, so what we're going to do as you continue to go, we're going to gather all of what you have put in the chat, and I'm going to spend some time today or tomorrow answering all of it. So when you get back the transcript and you get back the link to watch the replay, you will have some answers for these questions you've asked. But let me sum it up. Every single role is disruptible. So anyone who thinks it's not is not living in where things are. It's going to happen. We are not disruptible. We are human. And we need to keep saying that because the people who build AI don't get to determine what we should do next. We're not at the mercy. We are empowered, and that's the critical part. Keeping up with the pace of I agree with you. I teach AI in talent development. I also teach AI in instructional design. And every couple of weeks, we have to change it. I teach those two for ATD, and I also teach another course on prompting and agentic AI. And I teach a course on AI governance. All of that is changing rapidly. Every week, we could redesign that entire program. So what I would say to you is pick one thing and follow that one thing and don't get caught up in the next shiny thing. Okay, so I've answered those questions. Let's keep going. Here's the reality for all of us. 39% of workers' core skills are expected to change by 2030. I spoke about this in 2023 for the first time. And I put in to speak at a bunch of conferences and no one wanted to hear me. I would have a session and there would be two people standing there. Now all of a sudden everybody's talking about it. The World Economic Forum put out these numbers in 1999, long before AI was a thing in our preview. People have known that AI was coming and the technology could do what it's doing right now, but no one wanted to prepare us for it. That's the reality. 63% of employers cite skills gap as the number one barrier to 2025 to 2030 projections. 60% of jobs occupied by women, actually the number is closer to 72, are exposed to AI advancement issues. That's our reality. So there's a difference between exposed and automated. And I'm going to touch on that a little bit. A job can be exposed, but not every job will be automated. The risk is access, reinvention versus opportunity. So I want for all of us to think about this differently. Stop thinking about whether I'm going to lose my job. The question is, how do I reinvent my job so that I can find the next opportunity? And this is the first gem drop. No more, I think my work is going to be taken away. The question is, how do I reinvent my current role so that I continue to have opportunity? So we're going to do our first poll. Where is AI disruption showing up most in your organization? Where do you see it right now in your organization? And the poll is up. There are 4 options: skills gap, job redesign, performance evaluation, hiring and selection. Where do you see it happening most? And feel free to put, I don't know. No problem there. But for those of you watching this as a replay, you won't see the poll coming up. So I want to at least give you the poll question, which is, where is AI disruption showing up most in your organization? And this is a question that you should reflect on and think about. And the options are skills gap, job redesign, performance evaluation, or potential signaling, hiring and selection, or you're not sure yet. Okay. All right. Let's see what showed up in our poll. So most of you felt that it's showing up in job redesign and role changes. The next highest one being skills gap and upskilling, hiring and selection, and then there was a good percentage of you, probably equal, that weren't sure. For those of you that answered skills gap and job redesign or hiring and selection, tell me in the chat what specific things you're seeing. Just 1 word, 2 words. For those of you who are not sure, answer the following question. Where is AI deployed in your organization right now? Just put that in the chat. And we're going to gather this information and I'm going to prepare a post-webinar Q&A answer for all of us. Okay, we can close the quiz. Let's keep going. Remember, we're changing our vocabulary from exposed and automated. We're no longer saying those 2 words to reinvention and opportunity. And I want us to really stick and land those 2 words. Okay, so the quiet disruption. For those of you who have not seen the disruption in your workforce, let me tell you where it's happening. Right now, when we think about women's development, for those of you who are designing women's leadership development, I design women's leadership development programs for organizations all the time. And over the last 28 years, one of the things that I have seen over and over is what I have on the screen. I have put people and put the process into buckets, okay? And what we say to women is be seen and visible. That's the first signal. Be seen and visible. Signal one. Signal two is be selected and get stretch work, right? Be selected and get stretch work. The second thing is find a sponsor, mentor, sponsor, advocate, champion. So be sponsored for advocacy and access, and be saved. We will save you, right? So prior to AI, the four categories that women fall into is seen, selected, sponsored, and saved. The four S's. Now with AI, the gatekeeper to being seen is the AI. The gatekeeper to being selected is the AI. The gatekeeper to being sponsored is the AI. The gatekeeper to being saved is how much will the AI take of what we do every day. This is the reality. I'm a hard truth kind of person. Leaders don't need to pick women versus everyone else. We need to redesign the system so women aren't filtered out by default. That is the critical part of this. So we're going to pop up one more poll. Which career gate do you think is most at risk for women? Being seen, selected, sponsored, or retained? When I say saved, what I mean is retained during the reshuffle of work. Which one of these gates do you see as being most at risk for women? And we'll give it a few minutes. And for those of you watching the replay, the question, and we're doing a poll right now, and the poll is which career gate is most at risk for women as roles are redesigned? Is it being seen? Is it being selected? Is it being sponsored? Is it being saved? Meaning retained, or all of the above? Okay, let's see the poll. All of the above is a general consensus. Being seen was about 14% of our viewers, and selected 17, sponsored 10, saved 17. All of the above had 41%. So here's what I know, and here's where I want all of you to focus, especially those of you who are in talent development or instructional design or in the work of upskilling, reskilling individuals. We have to keenly focus on being saved. That's where we need to focus. We need to focus on being protected in the redesign. And we only protect ourselves in the redesign if we recognize that we cannot be filtered out by default. And so when people come into your inner circle, if you are a person of influence in the organization, you ask the question, how do we make sure that no one is filtered out? It doesn't need a gender. It just needs a question. How do we make sure that people are not filtered out is the question. All right, I'm going to keep going. Keep putting stuff into the chat. I want to talk about the 5 disruption zones, and then I'm going to go back and read the chat and answer any questions that you've posted in the chat. And I want to say something really clearly. This is not a fear-based process. This is an enlightenment process. I think oftentimes we think about, when we think about AI, there's an immediate fear, what comes next? Someone in the chat put, this is just like the computer or when things came in the computer age. I'm old enough to remember when the computer landed on my desk for the first time. I don't look it, but I am. I was leading a customer management department for a large insurance company in California. And we went from having Selectric typewriters on our desk and we were rolling the paper in and typing and using Correcto to move things back and forth to correct things. And one day my leadership came in and said, "You need to go to a class on computers." And I said, "Why?" "You got a typewriter." So I'm dating myself, and I'm not that old, but I'm dating myself, right? And they put the computers on our desk, and we had to figure them out. And it was the old DOS computer that had the little triangle thing in the top, and you put it in a command line, and you type things in, and it spit out a Word document. It wasn't even a Word document because Microsoft Word didn't exist at the time. So that's where we were. This is a little bit different because this is going at skills. And so as we go through the visibility zone, we're going to talk about skills. So there are 5 disruption zones for women and for all people who are working today, 5 of them. Number 1 and 2 almost go together. The visibility signal is zone 1. Who is seen when work is mediated to tools? How do I continue to be seen as relevant and valued when part of my work is being taken away? And someone put in the chat about you're bringing in support AI agents with knowledge-based documentation. So you're training your customer support AI agents with knowledge-based documentation. So what happens to the customer support people who are working in that role when the agent comes in? It now becomes a visibility signal. That was a great example. Thank you for putting it there. Evaluation and potential. How performance and readiness gets measured. When we think about AI, we have to think about the visibility signal and the evaluation and potential a little bit differently. The third zone is job redesign. When you think about task automation and role compression, there is a new pathway, and what does that look like? When we think about skills currency, and that's a critical thing that I want all of us, especially those of us in talent development, to understand, the work that you do is what's called skill currency. Okay, that skill currency doesn't go away because the AI has come in and been trained. One of the critical areas that we are going to wake up in 2030 and realize is that we've given our institutional knowledge to the AI, and the AI cannot duplicate the institutional knowledge on the ground. My prediction about 2030. And in 2030, we're going to realize that by giving the AI, like for example, customer support to the AI agent, we're giving the institutional knowledge to the AI agent, but the institutional knowledge is not being retained in the institution. So the AI agent is only as good as the institutional knowledge that it's been given today. It won't be good for the institutional knowledge that it will need by 2030. That's a wake-up call. So skill currency is huge. Sponsorship and networking is another big piece. Access to stretch work, advocacy, and protection. So I'm going to break these down now for us into individual components. Anyone have any questions about these disruption zones? And for all of you, how many of you are in talent development? Just put a little thing in that I'm in talent development or instructional design. Pop that into the chat so I could see who is in what roles, or if you're here as an individual contributor. Let me know that because I really want to know where you are in the process so I could speak more specifically and targeted to you. Yeah, thank you for putting it in. Yeah, e-learning development, both. Absolutely. Yeah, thank you for putting that in. Yeah. So these are the zones for our role in TD and instructional design, or exactly in workforce development, right? These are the signals that we need to really be conscious about. These absolute signals, because this is going to be the difference between retaining for us personally and for retaining for the talent that we are advocating for. All right, so let's unpack the signals. The first one, we've plugged them together. Zone one and two. When work is mediated or mediated by AI tools, the signal changes. Output becomes more visible than effort. Meeting summaries and dashboards shape perception. Potential gets inferred with digital traces. AI can amplify bias or reduce it depending on the design and the oversight. That's governance. If leadership development still assumes visibility happens in the room, it will lag the AI in the AI workplace. So what we have to recognize is that visibility is no longer going to happen in the room. And so when we think about potential and purpose and people moving forward, we have to reevaluate that and say, if AI has shaped some of the person's output, how do I really evaluate their potential? If AI is taking away this, how do I redesign for potential? What does that look like? And yes, the recording will be shared, and parts of the I will answer questions from the um, from the from the content. Yeah. So these are key points in terms of visibility. The question is, what does potential mean in the world of AI? But here's something I want to say to all of you that are designing. Here's a question that you need to ask. How does the AI know what the AI is supposed to know about the people or process it's replacing? There is an assumption that the AI is been given everything it needs to do the role, especially when you're building agents, right? And you're training people to manage the agent. Here's what really happens on the ground. And again, this is AI governance. The AI is given data that is skewed and biased. The AI is given steps in the work process that is based on your highest performer, but your highest performer is not the one that actually produces the best, because sometimes the work is slower and more strategic with someone going a little bit slower. And so the AI is given your best because that's what we perceive as the gold standard to give to the AI. The reality is what the AI has been given is going to replicate and duplicate across your organization, because no one took the time to ask the question, how does the AI know what it's supposed to know about our people or our processes? And who gave it the instructions for it to know the signal? So we design based on flawed perceptions. And then we exclude people based on those same flawed perceptions. And in a lot of cases, we end up having to rehire people because the institutional knowledge went out the door and the AI cannot replace the institutional knowledge. So it's our role to amplify what I just said. Okay. All right. Job three, or the zone three, is job redesign. Most displacement will look like a quiet task removal. Disruption, the definition of disruption is 25% of the task being removed and given to an AI in some form or fashion. That's disruption. Displacement occurs at 50%. Do I still need a full-time employee if 50% of their role has been given to automation, i.e. customer service? One of the things, I was a main stage speaker at ATD last year, and I'm back at ATD this year, and I'm there to talk about when AI breaks the law, what do we do? And how do we teach governance inside of the talent development role? How do we build, design, and teach governance for AI? So if you're at ATD in May, I will be there doing that on Monday. Shameless plug. But I want to talk about this for a second. When AI breaks the law, AI is given information quietly, and it's given roles and designs quietly. And then in between all of that, the AI begins to make decisions based on what we've given it. Job redesign is our biggest exposure to discrimination lawsuits, to desperate impact lawsuits, to all of the bias lawsuits that we can ever have. Right now, people aren't necessarily litigating, but there are cases out there where people are saying the AI eliminated me or did this or that to me. So when you're thinking about job redesign, we have to really look at what is automated and what is augmented. And then in redesign, we have to look at what's redesigned and what's combined. Because the pathway is going to get narrower for people as we put more agentic things in the door. We have to make sure that we are protecting inside of talent development high value work, meaning relationships, decisions, and governance. We're pivoting from roles to portfolios, meaning it's T-shaped. What have I done across the board and then straight line down? So we're making a skill stack for people versus giving them this linear, here's a ladder, it's leaning up against the building, let's climb it, right? So we have to look at task roles and pathways. We have to move beyond just giving people mobility steps. We have to give them mobility loops. We have to give them projects and then proof that that project works and that it's augmented by AI and it's combined and designed, and then you're eligible for promotion based on that. So, as talent development leaders, we have to really think about what we are doing. If we are worried about our own disruption, we have to ask a different question. I did a career session at ATD last year. About 125 people showed up. I've never seen that many crying people in the room before in my life. Everyone was crying because of fear. I want us to stop living in that fear. The question for us as talent development folks and anyone in the talent development schemata, right? If disruption happens, what is your intellectual property? What have you designed in your work that can be done outside of your work? That is your safety net. Okay? So we should not be living in fear of what could or what would. We have to be really conscious about the disruption that could happen. And if we are really going to be strategic, we have to build these power moves, protect high value work, pivot from roles to portfolios, and build mobility loops instead of mobility steps, instead of pathway steps. We almost need to get rid of the word pathway and call it a loop, because people will go in and out of a loop from now on in their career versus going on this linear path to somewhere. Any questions on what I've shared so far? Let me know in the chat what you think about automate to augment, design to combine, to pathways being loops versus a straight line. Tell me what you think about that. And tell me how that reshapes what you think about development. And for women, this is going to be very critical, this difference in thinking. All right, let's keep going. So, the skills currency. In order for us to say we are undisruptible, which again is my word, we have to understand our skills currency. The skills gap is real. The access gap is a multiplier, meaning many of us don't have access to the places that we should have access to, right? So when you think about skills gap, what we have to say is we must become AI fluent, meaning there is no limits to our fluency. Let me tell you what I've seen, because again, I explained to all of you a few minutes back that I teach AI in instructional design and AI in talent development for talent development leaders. Many of your peers will come to those training classes, and I will hear them say, my organization has told me that I can't do this, I can't do that, I can't do this, I can't do that, I can't do this, I can't do that. And they've given me this little box that I can operate in the AI world inside of this little box. And I don't know how to learn if this is the little box that I've been given. One of the critical things that is going to hamper deployment of AI is because we're still treating AI like it needs to be governed inside of a little box. And we are going to give people access just like we've always gated learning. The question I asked last year from the main stage at ATD is who gets access and who gets gated? In learning and development and talent development, access has always been gated. A manager or a leader or the organization has always said to a woman or anyone else, you are now approved to do X, Y, or Z. With AI, there is no approval. 4 days ago, Claude released their entire training process online for free, and you can get a certification in AI fluency and building agentic AI for free on their platform. So there's no reason for us in talent development or for our teams internally to not be AI fluent. AI fluent is not us building instructional prescriptions of things. AI fluency is giving people access so that they can go across the board. Yes, I will share, as in the follow up, I will share the free training links for Claude. Casey, if you Google Claude releases new training platform for free, it might come up and then you might be able to put it into the chat for me.
Okay.
But yeah, thank you. Ah, there it is. Yeah, someone put it in. Yeah. And so I'm not sure if that's the right one because it's on a different website, the person that put it in, but it might be the right one. Yeah. So data and decision literacy is important. System thinking is going to be really important for us as women and for talent development leaders. We have to think in systems. We have to now start to think about how work flows. How does work get from point A to point B? And where is the AI going to be attached to that? And what level of training is needed there? We have to become influencers in the digital space. And we have to reinvent how we build learning. Learning has to be learning, ship it, prove it, relearn it, ship it, prove it. It's a constant cycle now because what I learned this week is not applicable next week. And so learning is just going like this. We have to stop training leaders and start building mobility and optionality, meaning I have options and I have mobility and I'm going to learn these tasks really fast. And we need to learn and forget because as things evolve, I don't need to learn that anymore. I need to learn something else. We have to become flexible. And this is the scary part because most of us as human beings are not this flexible, right? Why this matters for women. So I've given you the talent development side of the house. I'm going to give you for women. Women are overrepresented in some of the highest exposure roles. Historically, the world of work has been built around clerical and administrative work. I can still remember in 1979 looking in the newspaper and seeing Girl Friday as the job. When women entered the world of work, the role was Girl Friday. That was literally the ad. We're looking for a Girl Friday. They expected you to work 1 day a week on Friday to just organize paper. And that mentality moved into where we are now, where women are overexposed in clerical and administrative work. And by us being overexposed in that area, we're now overexposed in being disrupted by AI. AI tends to transform tasks first, then reshapes pathway. When you are being asked to train agentic, you also need to think, let me recommend some training around the pathway. If reskilling pipeline isn't transparent, inequity will scale. If I can't see where I'm going within the trend of the AI, inequity will scale. For us and for us as women, we need to know our value. We need to define our skills not based on our role, but based on what we've already developed for others. There was a question in the chat, how does this work for people who are in consulting? I think, or independent consultant, I think we have to have no fear about learning more and learning faster. We do not run after the red shiny ball. We put our heads down and we get good at one thing inside of this AI process. If it's instructional design, instructional development, using AI augmentation, then we get really, really good at it and we stay on top of what is happening out in the world and we become an expert that is 2 steps ahead. I'll give you my own journey for the person that asked that. I come out of risk management, HR, and talent development. I'm a rare bird. I've got 3 skill sets. Overlay that, I've done disability inclusion. One of the main core of the first 20 years of my work was getting ill, injured, and disabled employees to stay in the workforce. So I did disability management. I took that over to DEI and inclusivity. And now I've rolled that whole thing up into AI governance. And it looks really messy. But I can't say that this needs to look a particular way. What we have to recognize is that AI is coming for us, but we can put the brakes on by not being caught up in how things look or how things are perceived out in the real world, out in the public, and just say, how do I adjust continuously so that I stay abreast of what's happening around me? And that is the mentality that we have to take inside the organization. How do we get people to let go of this is how we've always done it and embrace we're going to do it differently every Friday? That's skill currency. And that's the difference. Yeah. So I'm going to keep going. I'm still going to keep going into the chat. Sponsorship in the AI era. A lot of times for women, we tell women to go get sponsors, mentors, champions, blah, blah, blah. It looks different. Disruption and sponsorship, in disruption, sponsorship beats mentorship. What sponsors do now, you put names in the work. You say, in this new work environment, we need a set of women running a redesign team. We need a set of women piloting an AI process. We need subcommittees built where women are included in our next processes. We make impact legible, not just effort. What was the impact that this particular person has done in the work? So if you are working with people making decisions about how I get developed, like who gets developed, who gets the secret, grail to development. What we say now is, what is the impact that people are making? And how do we see that impact? We have to protect talent during restructuring, and we have to open networks that influence decisions, meaning that we have to open the door so that it's not gated where we need a person to access the door. We are able to network at every level in the organization so that we know what is going on at every level. We cannot keep people in silence and expect them to develop. In the AI era, the more transparency and openness that we have around development, the better we will be. So for women, how do we build strategic power? We choose 1 or 2 AI adjacent problems to own. If it's customer service that's being redesigned, we say, okay, what part of this do I need to learn? Maybe I'll take on the data part of it. Let me figure out how the data is managed. So instead of stretch assignments, we look for adjacent problems to own that AI can either augment, fix, or improve. We document our outcomes before and after. When I did this work, this is where we were, this is where we are after I've done the work. Because what it's going to take now for women to stay relevant in the workforce is for us to be able to document outcome. We have to ask for stretch work explicitly, not going in and saying, I want stretch work. No, no, no. I want to learn X because, and this is my ultimate goal. We have to convert allies into sponsors, make the ask easy. I don't want to be your friend and your friend is not doing anything for me. I don't want to have name drop leaders at upper levels and that leader doesn't really even know the impact I'm making in my role. We have to also ask and empower women to find sponsors outside of the organization. What do I need to know to transition to what comes next? And so, one of the critical things around zone five is that we have to recognize that our network is no longer inside of the organization. Our network is now broader. So, one of the questions here was, what would you advise people who are pivoting in their careers from nonprofit to private? Pivot. There's no place that, and the idea that we don't have transferable skills, and I will definitely answer this. All of us have transferable skills. One of the things that I learned when I was doing disability management is the following. A person would show up to work and they would be totally able bodied. And by the end of the day, they would have a workplace injury and they would end up in a wheelchair. And we would have to support them through that transition. And the way we did that was by looking at their transferable skills. What skills do you have in your skill bank? Not the things you have certified. What are the actual day-to-day skills? Map your skills to roles. And then you don't have to worry, am I in nonprofit or private? It becomes irrelevant because I've mapped my skills and I can see my impact. We have to get out of the box that we've been given to think a different way. So that was a great question. Thank you for asking it. So I'm going to keep going because I have a couple more slides before we open for full Q&A. But I want you to keep putting questions in there, okay? We must stay human. It's non-negotiable. AI can accelerate work, but it cannot replace leadership and our skills. Judgment is not a trade-off. Sponsorship is to be used to open doors. Ethical oversight is that we own the consequences of how we deploy AI. A couple days ago, Jack Dorsey laid off half of his workforce. For those of you who don't know who Jack Dorsey is, if you, as a business owner as I am, he invented Square, which is a digital tap payment that all of us use everywhere. He's the one that kind of invented that tap to pay, and he did it inside of Square. And it's a multi-billion-dollar company. I use Square every day because that's how clients pay me, right? He had a 10,000 workforce. He laid off 4,500 people. There's an ethical oversight that's needed there. How did you decide? And he blamed it all on AI. I think one of the things that's going to scare us is we're going to see people being laid off and everybody's going to blame it on AI, when the reality is we were probably over-resourced and now we get to quietly make the adjustment and blame it on AI. We always have to have context and empathy. Read the room, lead the people through change. And we also need to have courage to challenge unfair systems and bad incentives. We have to redesign with the goal to build AI fluency and strengthen human advantage at the same time. It's not one or the other. It's both at the same time. And I hope that we can embrace that as talent development leaders. The blueprint to redesign for women's leadership development is the following. We have to shift from competency building. Let me say that again. We have to shift from competency building to mobility plus power. I don't want to hear that we have competency building processes. I didn't like the word to begin with. Now I kind of don't like it at all. But these are the three buckets of development for women. And it's also, I would say this, the development for everyone. AI fluency is the first lever of the blueprint to redesign. We have to give people examples of the use cases. How are we going to use AI and what skills do they need to learn in and outside of work? We could give them a list of YouTube channels to go watch so that they can learn things. Learning does not have to occur inside of the instructional design process. You can say, here's how you augment your learning, and here's 5 things that I think you could do to augment that. We cannot have limits, and we cannot stop people from taking risk. I had one of my students in my last cohort in December tell me that her organization gave them a bullet point list of things that they can and cannot do with AI. The entire list, everything I taught in the program she was in, she cannot do them at work because she got a bullet point list. And she's an instructional designer. She can't do them because of the bullet point list, because now we've given the list instead of being able to build the skill. Prompting is not the end all. 90% of prompting doesn't work anymore, but we're still prompting. Data literacy is critical. We have to know the data literacy of the AI. What does the AI know about the people that it's supposed to be replacing or the action it's supposed to be doing? Who trained it? What is the data literacy behind it? Mobility readiness. We have to have projects, proof, and pathway. That's how it used to work. Projects, proof, and pathway. Now it's portfolios, not titles. What did you do under your portfolio? No titles. That's where we're going to be in 2030. Strategic power, sponsorship, influence, decision governance. We need people to sponsor us, but not in the way we think. We need them to sponsor us not only for access, but just to give us breathing room to understand the capability of AI. Make AI learning a default, not an elective. Tie development to real AI era work. Build sponsorship into every program design. Teach people proof of impact, meaning they must be able to tell their own story. Women must be able to tell their story. Anyone that you are designing for or working with AI must be able to give proof of impact. We have to publish skill pathways and role adjacencies. Here's a bunch of skills you need for AI, and here's some role adjacency on how you can move through it. We have to add governance and ethics to leadership. We have to measure mobility, not attendance. And we have to undo guardrails to employee development. No one needs a manager to learn AI. The foolishness that we've been doing where we say, oh, in order for you to be eligible for that program, your manager has to let you in. No, there's no guardrails now to AI fluency. This is the blueprint. So as an individual, it's Monday morning. What should you do? We have to build strategic power, whether or not your company prioritizes it. What do you need to do for yourself? Talent development leaders, everybody that put in to the chat, I'm afraid that my job's going to go away. This is what you need to do. Screenshot it. Strategic power plan. And these 2 slides I'm actually going to send to Casey to send out to you. Actually, the last 3. Everyone will get the last 3 slides. What to do for yourself. Strategic power plan. Build a skills plus proof portfolio with artifacts. Here's my skill, here's my proof, it's my portfolio. Role-based AI fluency. 5 demonstrations and 3 risks that you've solved. Get visible, document your impact, attach metrics. Let me tell you, one of the things that drives me crazy is when I will say to someone who comes to me for career advice, and I'll say, what's the dollar value of what you've done for the organization? And there's this deer in the headlights look. If they didn't have you and they went outside to do it, what would it cost them? Oh, I don't know. That's your value. Convert allies to sponsorship. Ask for introductions, ask for projects, ask for endorsement. Create an external runway, meaning network your credentials in and outside of work. If your company is ignoring women, especially women of color, treat it as a signal to build portability. If you notice that women are leaving and you are in talent development, don't say, oh, the women are gone, and pretend that you're not a woman. I'm just like, it's not an out-of-body experience, right? Go internal marketplace. For those of you who are worried about your job being gone, internal marketplace, gigs, committees, visible work. Negotiate access, budgets, tools, stretch criteria. Use external sponsors and community for visibility, like the Claude Learning. Set a timeline, not traction. If you're in the organization and you're not getting what you need, set a timeline to leave. Don't think it's going to get better, especially if AI is coming for you and you see it. Don't sit there and say, oh my God, it's coming. Set a timeline. 90 days, 120 days, have an exit plan. But in this day and age and where AI is going, I think everyone should have a 90-day mobility sprint plan. What is the skill? What is this project? And what is the sponsor? One-page portfolio. What's the problem I solve? What's the action I do to solve it? What's the impact I make in the organization? And what's the proof that I've done that? The sponsorship script. Back me for X role by giving me Y project and Z visibility. Back me for the role as AI augmentation expert by giving me this project and this visibility. That's how we talk to our sponsors, people who are there in our corners. Any questions on this? Please put it in the chat. Everybody's gone a little silent. I know this is a lot of info, but the recording will be there. All right, next up, what should you ask for starting on Monday? And this, you're going to get this slide. Given, and here's the one sentence ask. If you're a woman or a person in instructional design, or you're working with women around empowerment, is one sentence ask. Given how roles are changing, I'd like a 90-day upskilling and project plan tied to the next role or skill development and a sponsor to support it. One sentence ask. Role-based upskilling path, projected time to learn, mobility plan to pivot roles, fair stretch projects, a sponsor for accountability, and clear promotion or upskilling pathways. Ask for the plan in writing. Tie learning to a project, a date, a name, and the next skill, next role you're targeting. We have one final poll that we're going to try to pop up right now. We have a few minutes, so I think we can put the poll up. Of everything I've told you, and it's a lot, and I tend to do a lot. Casey was right. When you come to one of the sessions with me, I give you a lot of information. I share freely because I think the more we share, the better things will be. Of the things I shared, what's the number one next step that you'll do in the next 30 days? Oh, yes. This is the best thing, and I'm going to talk over the poll. I feel like there seems to still be bias as well towards older women with AI. Even if we prove we know the tech more than our counterparts, male counterparts, are given the new tools in tech. Absolutely. That's why we need our own portfolio. Because what I do internally does not mean I cannot do it externally. AI is the great democratizer. Let me give you an example. My son is a software engineer, and for years I've had this tool in my mind that I wanted to build. And for years he said to me, oh, Mom, it's a lot of work. And I've said, okay, no problem. And I've sat and done that. I went onto YouTube University, and I learned how to vibe code, VIBE code. I built the piece of software myself in about 11 hours over a weekend. It was raining outside. And I decided, okay, I can't go anywhere. Let me do this. And I watched a million YouTube videos. I paid $10 to go into a school community and learn how to vibe code. And I built the software myself and I deployed it to my customers in a weekend. I could never have done that. And I have been doing this work as an independent consultant for 28 years. For 28 years, I would have been dependent on my son to give me access. So here's the poll results from our question. What's the number one next step in the next 30 days? Audit what your organization rewards, visibility signal. The next one was guarantee equitable access to AI upskilling. Update leadership development for mobility readiness, run a sponsorship sprint for high potential women, add governance ethics review for talent. Okay, Thank you, Casey. So let's wrap it up. Keep putting your questions into the chat, please. And if we don't get to it now, I will answer them in the follow up to everyone. So here is what you need to do as an organization over the next 30 days. Audit your signals. What metrics, tools, and meetings drive promotion decisions? And are they still aligned to the future? Map the 5 disruption zones. Identify 1 or 2 roles and pathways where women are most exposed. Redesign 1 program component by adding AI fluency, sponsorship, and real projects. Make a visibility commitment. Put women into AI era stretch work this quarter. This is the commitment. This is what we need to do for ourselves, and this is what we need to do within the organization. I've given you both sides of the coin. This is how you stay in touch with me. Again, I am on LinkedIn every second of the day. My email is mspence@inclusionlearninglab.com. I am on LinkedIn at Margaret Spence. I have a Substack called The Undisruptible Woman, where I write about being disrupted by AI. And I also have a Substack called AI Governance for Talent Leaders for HR. So it's AI Governance for HR and The Undisruptible Woman on Substack. I want to thank ELB and Casey for inviting me back to do another program for ELB Learning, one of the most progressive learning organizations out there, and they're focused on women every March, and the work that they put into making and bringing this content is totally amazing. So thank you all for joining us. And Casey, I can't thank you enough for having me here, and I'm going to stop sharing.
No, thank you. Thank you so much. I feel like I owe you guys a big I told you so. I knew this was going to be good. I knew what she was going to do. She does it every time. So thank you so much, Margaret. Thank you all for joining us and engaging with us in the chat and everything. Before you head out, please take 30 seconds to fill out that survey that'll pop up on your screen after we wrap up in just a moment. We really value your feedback, and it's the best way to let us know if you want to take advantage of that free strategy session. And it's a great way to get in touch with our speaker directly. Please join us next Thursday for the next session in our Women's History Month series. The registration link is in the chat now, and we'd love to see you next week. Thank you guys so, so much.